Selamat pagi. Hari ke-90 perjalananku menuntut ilmu. Makin kesini makin seru. Bukan karena aku harus selalu berhasil. Bukan hanya menuju garis finish lalu selesai. Bukan. Ini tentang proses, tentang sedikit demi sedikit, tentang menikmati ketukan waktu dengan irama yang sama, tentang menjalani kebahagiaan dengan cara sederhana, sekedar berbagi, sekedar bersama, sekedar saling mengingat dan menangkap momen kemarin, dan saling menunggu kemana akhirnya. Di kampus ini, semua bisa terjadi. Dan aku memilih terus menjadi diri sendiri. Iya. Masa depan sudah di sini.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Unisbank. It is an awesome and precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony this morning on Saturday, 26th of August 2023 of this event. First of all, let us say our grace for this wonderful opportunity that we all have today. The honorable speakers, Mr. Eric Albert Summer, Mondial teacher from San Francisco, California, Mrs. Aya Ahmed Zidane, Tripoli College, Libya, Mr. Joseph Lamont, Australian researcher, and Mr. Teguh Kasprabowo, SPD MPD, lecturer, Universitas Tikubang, Semarang. The Honorable Vice Rector of Cooperation and Entrepreneurship, Dr. Ellen Puspitasari, MSI, the Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Law and Language, Dr. Agnes Widyaningrum, SE, SPD, MPD, the Honorable Lecturers, fellow students, all participants, and presenters. Welcome to the 3rd International Student Conference. This conference is proudly presented by the Faculty of Law and Language Studies of Tikubang University, Semarang. This year's conference takes a very interesting theme: literature, linguistics, and English language teaching in digital world, challenges and opportunities. Before we start, allow me to read the programs of our event today. First is the opening, the prayer, and singing our national anthem. Next, we will have the welcome address from the Vice Rector of Cooperation and Entrepreneurship. After that, we have the opening address from the Dean of the Faculty of Law and Language, Universitas Tikubang, Semarang. We will continue out program with the plenary session with our 4 keynote speakers. And we will proceed to the question and answer session. We will have a break for 1 hour 45 minutes. Then we will move to the parallel session where the presenters and all participants will be assigned in breakout rooms. Before the closing, there will be very important announcement in which we will mention the best speaker and the best papers. Ladies and gentlemen, before moving on further, let us all pray together. Pray start. Finished? Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we will sing our national anthem together. Thank you. The following is the welcome address from the Vice Rector Cooperation and Entrepreneurship. For Dr. Ellen Puspitasari, MSI, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Grace, as a master ceremony. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Excellencies, the Dean of Law and Language Faculty of Universitas Tikubang, Dr. Agnes Widyaningrum, the Head of English Literature Department, Mrs. Yulistianti, the speakers, Mr. Eric Albert Stummer as a model teacher from San Francisco, California, Ms. Ayah Ahmed Zidan from Tripoli College, Libya, Mr. Joseph Lemon as an Australian researcher, and Mr. Teguh Kasprabowo from Universitas Tikubang. Moderators, chairpersons, all members of Fakultas Hukum dan Bahasa Universitas Tikubang, students, participants, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to all of you. Welcome to the third International Student Conference. I, representative of the Universitas Tikubang Rectorate, fully supports to this conference program. The student conference is a scientific work discussion from which is held regularly every year to increase the creativity of the students and lecturers in dealing with the development of science. Especially in the scope of this conference, literature, linguistics, and English language teaching in digital world. This term is very interesting. Challenges and opportunity of digital world. Digital life in hand. Digital transformation is not only about hot topics such as artificial intelligence, big data, and machine learning. Digital transformation is about human resources changing the way we find solutions. Technology and device are the media. I wish the conference a completely success. Earnest effort and good results are shown from the number of participants always increases every year, come from various countries. To all of our distinguished guests, speakers, presenters, and participants, thank you for being here. Welcome and enjoy the conference. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Ellen. The following is the opening address from the Dean of the Faculty of Law and Language, Gubang University Semarang. For Dr. Agnes Widyaningrum, SE, SPD, MPD, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Grace. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished scholars and delegates. Good morning and a warm welcome to the prestigious University of Kubang as we inaugurate the third International Student Conference hosted by the English Literature Department of the esteemed Faculty of Law and Language. I am honored to stand before you as the Dean of this faculty as we embark on a journey of exploration and enlightenment on a theme of utmost significance, literature, linguistics, and English language teaching in the digital world, challenges and opportunities. In an era marked by the convergence of technology and education, by the seamless blending of cultural boundaries, and the ever-evolving realms of language and literature, we gather here today to delve into the multifaceted dimensions that define our field. This conference stands as a testament to our unwavering commitment to fostering intellectual exchange, nurturing innovation, and embracing the transformative power of knowledge. The theme we have chosen reflects the dynamic landscape in which we find ourselves, a world where the digital realm and traditional scholarship intersect, where linguistic evolution and cultural preservation coexist, and where the art of teaching is forever reshaped by the technological advancements. The fusion of literature, linguistics, and language teaching against the backdrop of the digital age calls upon us to navigate through challenges while unearthing unprecedented opportunities. Our esteemed keynote speakers, representing diverse corners of the globe, bring their invaluable insights to the fore. Mr. Eric Albert Stammer, renowned as a mondial teacher, will illuminate us with pioneering approaches that redefine pedagogy for the digital generation. Ms. Ayah Ahmed Sidan, hailing from Tripoli College in Libya, adds a global perspective to our discussions, enriching our understanding of the intricate cultural tapestry woven by language. Mr. Joseph Lamont, a distinguished Australian researcher, offers us a glimpse into the fascinating confluence of technology and linguistic evolution, demonstrating how these forces shape our very modes of communication. And of course, we are enriched by the presence of our own Mr. Teguh Kasprabowo, a referred faculty member of the University of Kubang, whose local insights ground our discussions in the context of our own academic community. As we assemble here, let us acknowledge the breadth and depth of participation from across the globe. Our participants hail from Indonesia and abroad. Esteemed institutions such as the University of Kalyani, Rizal Technology University in Philippines, San Pedro College, Batangas State University, and the College of Teacher Education, among others. Your presence underscores the collective commitment to shaping the discourse and charting the course for the future of English language education. Over the course of this conference, let us strive to dissect complexities, unearth innovations, and kindle collaborations that bridge geographic boundaries, engage, learn, and share, for it is within this shared space of knowledge that we transcend barriers and pioneer pathways of progress. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to all speakers, participants, organizers, and supporters who have made this conference a reality. May this days of deliberation be ones of discovery and dialogue, forging connections that will resonate beyond these walls and echo across continents. With that, I officially declare the Third International Student Conference open. Thank you. Back to Grace.
Thank you, Dr. Agnes. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I guess this is what we are all waiting for, the plenary session. I believe that we will learn a great deal from our speakers today. And the moderator of the plenary session will be the Honorable Miss Lintang. For Miss Lintang, please kindly take it over. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Grace. And good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's conference with the theme Literature, Linguistics, and English Teaching in Digital World. My name is Lina Eningati, and I'll be your moderator for today's plenary session. Before we start, I encourage all of the participants to take notes, to be engaged, and to ask questions at the end of the presentation. This is meant to be an interactive discussion, and we'll aim to answer as many questions as possible during the allocated question and answer time. We will open the question and answer session after all of the keynote speakers done with their presentation. So please do not hesitate to ask and wanting to know more about the topic. Right then, without further ado, let's just get started. So let's start our panel session today with our very first speaker, and it will be Mr. Eric Albert Stammer, Mondial teacher from San Francisco, California. Now, he is an incredible person with lots of achievement and experience. And Mr. Eric is I will read Mr. Eric's CV to all of you first. So Mr. Eric is an ESL or English as a Second Language teacher since 2002 and has been working in Study World, Springfield, Maria Regina, and currently he is working in Mondial. He is a TESOL certified English teacher and is another speaker with fluency in 4 languages. He also has extensive experience in ESP or English for Specific Purpose and Business English, as well as having 15 years of experience in travel industry. So Mr. Eric is a very experienced person, mainly in English teaching, and I believe we will learn many things from Mr. Eric today. Okay, so I just start the session, and please welcome Mr. Eric Albert Stammer.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Lintang. Good morning, everyone. Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me to be a guest speaker, and so that I can share my experiences. First of all, let me just open my PowerPoint. Just a moment, please. All right. This morning we'll be talking about literature, linguistics, and English teaching in the digital era, challenges and opportunities. First of all, well, there's a picture of me. Oh, by the way, first of all, I would like to apologize. I wasn't able to connect the virtual background. My laptop, unfortunately, is not set up for that. So I do apologize that I just have a normal background. And as Ms. Lintang introduced me already before, my name is Eric Stummer. I'm from the United States, from San Francisco. I've been living here in Indonesia, in Semarang, for the past 21 years. I'm married to an Indonesian woman and have 2 beautiful children. Both of them university students, one of them graduating, as a matter of fact, next month. And my boy and my daughter, she's the last year, both of them there at Polines. And As mentioned before, I've been teaching mainly here in Semarang. I love the city. It's my adoptive city. I love it. Even sometimes when I go back to the West, I'm always very happy to come back home. My heart and soul is here. And I come from an international background, from American father, German mother, and I was born in Italy, raised in Italy and Germany, but also lived, of course, for many years or 25 years in the United States before making the big leap, coming over to Indonesia. And I fell in love with this country. And of course, my wife is also Indonesian. And I've been again teaching in Indonesia since 2002, and I would like to share my experiences. First of all, the challenges teaching here, what I really admire about Indonesia, when I came here, began teaching in 2002, my experience was the following, that what happened at the beginning when I was teaching English, it was very limited English speakers in Indonesia, and English learning was more accessible to the elite individual that had money to pay for it. What I started seeing the development in the later years, in the middle of 2010, 2012, I started seeing that it began to be more accessible to everyone. I remember that local schools, they started implementing, in certain schools, they started implementing immersion. And I've been part of that program. I remember I assisted some schools around here in Semarang, and I felt quite touched by finally the English learning be accessible to everyone. And we can see the results nowadays in the 21st century. I'm quietly proudly have to say that you've got, as a native speaker, you've got lots of people being able to communicate in English. Even they're approaching you, they want to practice and speak in English. I'm talking about even people from simple background, and that's highly appreciated. One side that I'm very proud of seeing in Indonesia, that more people speak English in Indonesia. Like when you go to Southern Europe, you go to France, Italy, Spain, Portugal, and trust me, you see less people being able to speak English than you do in Indonesia. So Indonesia has achieved quite a lot. All right, let's begin talking about not being carried away. Let's begin with the topic. Okay, literature in the digital era. All right, new methods of reading habits, how technology affects students and their literary habits. Now let's begin with the rise of ebooks, audiobooks, and digital publications. First of all, the rise of audiobooks. They began in the late 1980s. I remember being back in the United States, them becoming more popular, especially because people in the United States commute for quite some distances, and always listening to the usual music or during your commute in the car to usual music or the regular news. Sometimes it can be a little bit boring. So you want something different, especially people that enjoy reading novels or literature. I remember in 1980s, 1990s, I'm talking about family members commuting long distance to work, and they just put in the CD or the cassette at that time into the system, and they were able to listen to the novels, their favorite novels. Of course, by commuting such long distances, you're getting back home, you're exhausted, you freshen up, you eat, and then you just want to go to sleep. Yeah, you're too tired. But at least you're passing your time during your commute in an enjoyable way by listening to the audiobooks. Later on, in the beginning of the 2000s, between 2006 and 2007, we are talking about ebooks. Ebooks began becoming more popular because people were starting to become more environmentally conscious. They want to protect the environment, saving the forest, and so forth. There are some advantages and there are disadvantages by reading ebooks. The advantage of course, it's environmentally friendly. But on the other hand, constantly looking at a screen, you know how it is, it can exhaust a little bit your vision. It can make you quite easily tired than reading a typical book. But there are major advantages. We're talking about example of ebooks such as Google Playbooks, Project Gutenberg, or the Open Library. Audiobooks, good audiobooks website that I can recommend are for example, LibriVox, Open Culture, Libby by Overdrive, or Amazon Kindle. Also, the changes that we see in the reading patterns and preferences. Conventional paper books and materials are really an option in the digital age, as lots of people are more environmentally conscious. And of course, we don't want to waste paper. And by using the digital methods, research definitely is so much easier for your generation, Generation Z or Generation Alpha. Accessing, researching information is so easy nowadays. I mean, you can just go to Google search and you can research the topic that you look for, the information that you're researching. My generation, unfortunately, we weren't that lucky. When I was in university or at school, we didn't have the material at home. We took the bus, rode the bicycles, and went to the closest library to research for information. Well, nowadays, the various resources, you can access them online. All right, linguistic in the digital era. Language and social media. As everyone is aware, your generation, new style of communications, new way of communication, such as using emojis by expressing your emotions, and acronyms. Acronyms in the digital age for your generation is very easy to understand. My generation, being a baby boomer, took me quite some time to adapt to it. We talking about even my own children had to assist me to understand what do they mean with this abbreviation, etc. We talking about good example. Well, the one that I'm most familiar with myself, that's been around for a long time, the acronym ASAP, as soon as possible. That's been around for quite some time. But the one for your generation is, for example, LOL, laugh out loud, or we talking BTW, by the way. I mean, I had to adapt to those. And we talking about also using hashtags and trends in language evolution. Of course, myself, I needed to adapt to the 21st century, not the other way around, especially during the pandemic, online learning. I had to adapt very fast. I was forced as an older person, you're more hesitant in changes, but I was forced into it. And even nowadays, I'm applying it more to my regular classes, but we'll discuss that about it later. Language standardization and preservation. We're talking about the process by which conventional forms of a language are established and maintained in order to facilitate communications. Our generation need to adapt to the development of language communication of the 21st century, not the other way around. The other way around, it's good for your generation to understand the way that it used to be, but also for us from the older generation to understand the modern way of communication. Next is the utilization of online resources. We're talking about accessible language learning apps obtainable for free or reduced charges. Language learning apps such as Duolingo or Rosetta Stone, Memrise, BBC Learning English, etc., etc., etc. Or we're talking about various different medias to facilitate language learning, such as the traditional way, using pictures, TV, YouTube, or Realia. If some of you don't know what Realia is, we're talking about verbal practice. Realia, we're talking just a second. Realia, objects and materials used in everyday life. All right. All right, next one. We talking about what else were we talking? That was the multimedia. Then we talking about also multimedia such as video, podcast, audio slideshows, and animated videos. This is what I've been using in high school nowadays. It's also in elementary school. What I did for my regular classes nowadays, I've been adapting. Instead of going back, lots of schools I've been hearing they've been going back into in classes learning. They've been going back to the traditional way. Myself and also lots of my colleagues, we started incorporating what we applied during our virtual classes. We started applying it in our normal classes by showing many times. I'm showing to my classes YouTube videos, and we have a class discussion, or even using virtual books. Of course, we've got in each classroom, we've got a PC connected to an LCD projector, and also with proper sound system. That's the most important part, because especially your generation, you're very visual. I've been doing my own research, assessing students' likes and dislikes, assessing in high school, asking them, how many of you like the new ways of learning? I'm talking about incorporating visual learning, virtual books in the classroom, and not the traditional book. About 98% of the class prefer to use the virtual book. We talk about, of course, in class, they're having their regular traditional book while I'm using my virtual book to look it over with the students. Access to videos, access directly to recordings, exercises, also answers. I can circle. The virtual book is exactly what I have, but I can also mark it. All right. Next, of course, practice in communication with people online. All right. We are talking about verbal practice. Communication is very important for you student to access, being able to practice your verbal and also your written skills with students from around the globe. We talking about websites such as Lingoda, Verblink, or Coffee Strap. That gives you the possibility to practice communication with people online from around the globe. All right, next, just a second. Okay, English teaching in the digital era. Okay, we're comparing traditional teaching and learning. Of course, the way that most of us would been used prior to the pandemic, physical learning materials and equipments like papers, books, worksheets, and of course, using the traditional whiteboards. Education materials, information, of course, being available on a limited basis by using textbooks provided or worksheets that your instructor, your lecturer, or teachers are able to provide. Teaching and learning typically happens in an in-person classroom setting. Now discussing about teaching and learning with technology. So we got wider access to education through digital materials, information and multimedia. Again, once more, such as video podcasts, audio slideshows, and animated videos. More available channels and flexible tools for communication, as well collaboration by working together, such as Gmeets, Zoom, and Microsoft Teams. And enables a more personal style of learning for students. Well, it is easier also for us educators to access. Hello, excuse me. If I just heard somebody speaking, please do mute your microphone. Thank you, that's highly appreciated. Okay, enables a more personalized style of learning for students. The lecturer or the teacher, professor is able to assess the student liking and the material that you're supposed to cover, you can kind of create it in a way that your students will be able to focus better on. Opportunities and challenges. Connecting, of course, the learners from different cultures and background, like I said before. Expanding horizon through virtual exchange programs. Easy accessibility to language learning through various platforms. Integrating digital literacy into language teaching, encourage responsible digital citizenship. As we're all aware nowadays, the reality is, what do they mean with digital citizenship? So by being respectful and expect respect from others, protect your and others' reputation, and protect privacy, and think critically. Think critically before what you're typing. I know it's easier to get emotional online, express your disappointments, your joys online, but at a certain point, we also need to think about others, even though we might have never seen that person, but we need to be considerate towards others like they're in front of us, like we do in person. Let's talk about the challenges, the ever-growing features of artificial intelligence. So we're talking about virtual assistants like ChatGPT, where you ask AI for information, and in a blink of an eye, you obtain all the information that you requested. It sounds good, but it takes your creativity away and critical thinking. That's why plagiarism detection from educators is quite important, because we really need to assess how much is yours and how much did you get from copy and paste. Yeah, I know AI is a great tool, but the reality is, it is not a good idea only depend on that. We need to continue to stimulate our way of thinking. We need to show that we're able to do it on our own. And this is why plagiarism detection is very important. The ease of fake news and misleading information spreading around the globe so fast. People relying on information, what you get on social media, and that is definitely is a no-no. It's not good. Fake news, we need to be able to vet what we read and verify the information through reliable sources. Inequalities in technology access. During the pandemic, you see more the class distinction. People from higher economical backgrounds, there it was no problem having Wi-Fi, having a PC or laptop or iPad or an Android mobile phone to follow the classes online. The reality is that unfortunately, the one from the lower background, they didn't have the same abilities like the rest of us. There are difficulties, also people living in rural areas, not having reliable internet access, so they missed out a lot for 2 years. What I've been reading about it was quite touching, seeing some teachers from local schools in rural areas going to the country schools to teach the students in person so they wouldn't be lost. And that was quite an honorable move. Digital dependency, being addicted to it. I know I'm quite a culprit myself. YouTube, social media. I don't believe in other social medias like Twitter, Facebook, and so forth. Never believed in that. But lots of you, younger generation, using Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, etc., can be quite addictable. And putting it down, we really need to learn to control putting a limit on it. Limit our times when we time to work. We need to put it down and focus what we're supposed to do. Also, one thing about digital dependency is sad seeing people going out together, families, friends, seeing them instead of communicating, having a good time, enjoying the surrounding, enjoying the meal or the activity that you're supposed to do. They just, each of them are communicating individually on their gadget. And humanity, honestly, it's not supposed to be that way. Humanity is supposed to connect humans in person, not only through gadgets. Gadgets can help us to communicate with people that are far away, but overall, for people around us, the human touch is always number one, our priority. Um, Hold on. Okay, stop just a second. Stop share. All right. This is all for me. Sharing my experiences and how I feel about teaching and learning in the 21st century. Thank you very much, everyone. And I'm looking forward to the Q&A session later on.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Eric. And let's first give applause to Mr. Eric for a very insightful presentation. I'm sure our audience has learned a lot from you today. And I would like to summarize the main point of Mr. Eric's presentation. So English is now for everyone, thanks to the digital world, and it makes learning much more accessible to everyone. There are ebooks, audiobooks, just like Mr. Eric mentioned, and many websites where we can learn language. Not to mention, this is also all thanks to technology, but there are also several downsides that follow, so we have to be wise to use this technology. Alright, once again, I would like to say thank you to our very first keynote speaker, and now let's move on to the second keynote speaker today, Mrs. Ayah Ahmed Zidan from Tripoli College, Libya.
Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. I will introduce her first. Mrs. Ayah Ahmed Zidan is a wonderful and incredible person and has an experience and achievement. Firstly, she achieved her bachelor degree in English literature in Universitas Tikubang Semarang in 2016 and achieved her master degree in English in Universitas Taman Siswa in 2019. Mrs. Aya is also a major of evaluation and information office in Red Libyan Prison. She once worked as a lecturer and worked at the company. Given from her experiences, I'm sure she has a lot to share with us. Alright then, without further ado, Mrs. Aya Ahmed Zidan, the time is yours.
Okay, thank you so much. First of all, hi, how are you? Hope all of you fine. Did you hear me very clear, right?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to thank Bu and Dang. I miss all of you. I miss Unisbank staff and that wonderful day there in Indonesia. Miss you so much, really. You are so kind people that I ever met in my life. Actually, if I'm going to talk about my experience there in Unisbank or in Yogyakarta or in Semarang, I will spend maybe 1 hour or 2 hours because it was the most 7 years wonderful in my life. Thank you so much for giving me these opportunities to present my paper. Okay, the title or my presentation, it will be about the influence of using technology in teaching English literature or in teaching in literature in general. As you know that without technology, I will not be here and I couldn't even see you or or make this wonderful meeting. So technology is very important in our era. So what about if we take this, technology and we use it in our classroom? So it could make a benefit for a student and for us as a lecturer, right? Okay, no one could say no, because technology is very important in our normal life. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the using technology inside the classroom. First of all, as we know that the literature, it's a very important subject, not only in the classrooms, but also in our normal life, The lecture, it talks about, it's a language of imagination, By using literature, you are going to even create your own idea, create your own life. So literature in general, it improves our personality. It's also, when you just go deeper in literature, sometimes you can build your own personality about what the others or the authors wrote already. The importance of teaching literature, of course, it lies on reading and understanding the text. So, first of all, as you know that the literature, it depends on what reading what the others already wrote. Then you are going to discuss by yourself the opinion and so on. Then I'm sorry, I forgot to share my PowerPoint. I'm really sorry. And no one remind me, by the way. Okay, wait a minute.
Yeah, Miss
Let me
Sarah,
share my.
should we share it for you, or do you want to share it or should we share it for you?
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
I was so excited.
That's all right.
Sorry. Okay. So what else? I'm going to, as you know, all the schools around the world and all universities and all students, they are always blaming teachers. So the lecturer or the teachers, they are the foundation of the classroom. They are everything in the classroom. So when the teachers tries to use a technology to improve the learning, yes, what happened? Yeah, thank you. What a lovely background. Unisbank University, English Literature Department of Law and English, of course, Language Faculty. So, okay, go to the second slide, please. Okay. So I'm going to, I'm gonna talk about how we are going to use a technology, which are two, e-books and hypertext inside the classroom, and how it improves the students inside the classroom. So as I told you, that the teachers or the lecturers are the foundation of the classroom. So the teachers the technology, it's also, I'm sorry, improve the teacher is the way that she teach or he teach the student. Okay, so this generation of digital burn us continuously the technology. So no one didn't use that technology, even normal people or kids or whatever. So what about the student? It could help them. So of course, so much by transferring different maybe videos, photo, and other things, So also, I'm going to share the impact of a new technology in literature. How this technology, its impact on literature. Okay. I don't know which slide you can go. Wait a minute. Sorry, we're wasting the time. This is PowerPoint. Could you please go to the third slide? Yes, pass to the third slide. Yeah. As you see that in 2001, an expert that the digital technology applies to the teachers, to educate video games becomes aware of essential change the student is point of view. Whether the impact of using technology in literature, it makes a student more creative and inside the classroom, and asks the teacher, for example, teacher, could you please, lecturer, could you please use another way of teaching, and so on. So it's a very motivation using technology inside the classroom. Okay, so when the teacher is going to use the hypertext, as you know that the hypertext, it's it's a set of links, links in the documents that the student use it when the lecturer gives the student a word or a topic. For example, when the lecturer asks student to use, for example, to talk about this topic. So here in this case, yeah, okay. I'm trying to share my PowerPoint, but I couldn't by myself. I don't know, maybe there is a stuck here in this application. I don't know. Okay. Okay, the hypertext, is a linkage of documents between them through the keywords. Some students, they are using hypertext to collect data, to collect all the information about the topic. Then they are using it in a presentation or for communication. So when the teachers or the lecturers ask a student to use a hypertext, it could help them too much to collect data about or information about the topic that she or he gave to the student. So hypertext, it's a very benefit technology that helps student to find very easily the way to solve to find more information, to whatever that the teachers give to the student. By using hypertext, the student inside the classroom could directly collect all those, find from this link to other links to documents to collect the data, then going to communicate with the teacher or the student. Even this communication inside the classroom, or for example, like now, it's just by using some apps. So hypertext inside the classroom, it's one of the most important technologies that the lecturer must use inside the classroom to help their student to improve their literature and the way they think, and could find the assignment or whatever that the teacher gave to them. Then the second technology, which is e-book, electronic books. It's like iPads or books that no need to go to the library and spend your time while you are searching for some ideas or whatever. Just when you are going to use, a e-book, it's gonna be so easily for students to find the idea. So by using ebooks, you can find whatever you want. Electronic books is electronic version of traditional printed book. Okay, it's okay, traditional printed book, but it's by electronic, so it's between your hands. When I'm going to ask my student, please, for example, talk about Shakespeare or any other author, so directly by using ebook, they are going to search in the logo in the upside, then they are going to whatever they
I think Mrs. Ayah is disconnected right now. We'll wait for a bit.
Sorry, seems that Miss Aya muted her microphone accidentally.
Oh, I see. Right.
And now?
Okay, yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. So the technology of using ebook inside Yeah, technology of using ebooks inside the classroom, it give a benefit. It could help students to find any topic that they ask, the lecturer ask them to collect it in easily way, and it's it's a very joyful, not boring way. So every student will have his his ebook and try to find whatever he wants by using ebook. Okay. So when you are going just to use a printed book, it's a very old way, just looking for a book and try to find which page and whatever. But by using ebook, it will be so easily to send the idea. Okay. Could you please, fifth slide, please? Fifth slide, the fifth one. Okay. Okay, thank you. Then, contribution of technology in the study of literature. When you are going to study literature and use the technology, how this contribute inside the classroom or inside online classes or whatever. By using technology, students acquire a higher level of control, So it's completely different when I'm just inside the classroom without using technology. Of course, I don't know how to find the idea and so on. But when there is a technology here, the student will feel like they are under control on sharing a knowledge. They are sharing knowledge, information, and give sometimes a sources of this information. So using technology is acquire a high level of control on sharing knowledge for students. Also, technology, help them to choose a time of access information, sources which integrate within a study course and can be completed after, no need to use, go to library to find your information. By using technology, you are in classroom or out from classroom, you can find whatever you want. So, in using technology in literature, it's a very helpful for the students. Then the next, the contribution of technology in literature teaching. So we are now, I'm just talking about the contribution of technology in study for students. Now I'm going to talk about the teachers, So as I told you that the teacher is a role model on the classroom. So the teachers or the lecturer, I'm sorry, going to use a technology. It's help her and help them too for searching the words, the information, and etc. So using technology, it's both important for the student and also for the lecturer. It will help them make the class more, there is more communication, more motivation inside the classroom. So using technology, of course, it's very important even for normal people in our era. So what about the students and their assignment and their information and a lot of questions comes in their mind. For last slide, that's the end. As you know that today we can say with the of course with the conviction that the time of teaching by using library, teaching by using all things, all tools, it goes away. Now it's true that the teaching literature today is where by using a technology is becoming more and more easily than before. Before teaching without using technology, it's more complicated. You can't even know the way, how can I make my students feel excited and find the idea. But now with using technology, the class and the teaching will be more easily and more enjoyable inside the classroom. technology helps motivate studying and experiment a new teaching method. So we can't say no that the technology, of course, it makes sense inside classroom. So that's all for my presentation. And thank you so much.
Okay, then thank you very much, Mrs. Aya. And first, let's give applause to Mrs. Aya for the very interesting presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, so I would like to summarize the main point of Mrs. Aya's presentation. So there are tools, technology, and platforms that we can access and use, especially to learn literature works, and make learning and teaching much more enjoyable. All right, once again, thank you, Mrs. Aya, for joining and share your experiences with us today.
Thank you.
Okay. Before we continue, let's take some pictures together first. Okay then. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you very much. Now let's move on to the third keynote speaker. That is Mr. Joseph Lamont, a researcher from Australia.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to share my screen here. Hang on, I'll do that in a sec. So basically, yeah, just to introduce myself, my name's Joseph. I'm a filmmaker and researcher working on advocacy projects in the development sector in Eastern Indonesia. So my talk is a little bit different to the topics that have been presented, but I hope we can have some discussion about this topic. So let me share my screen here. Share. Okay, can everybody see?
Yes, we can see your presentation.
Okay, so the title of this talk is Developing Marapu Indigenous Religion Education Materials for High Schools in East Sumba District. The documentation you see in the background is one of the Marapu religious rituals that we filmed during developing these materials. And there's a few of these throughout the presentation. So let me start with an overview of what I'd like to talk about today. So firstly, of course, I'd like to introduce the Marapu indigenous religion of Sumba, talk a little bit about the history of indigenous religion adherence in Indonesia. Then I'd like to introduce the program that I've been working on, which is called the Marapu program. That's being implemented by 2 NGOs in Sumba. Then I'd like to talk about how we and the Ministry of Education have started to implement Marapu religion and culture in the formal education system in Indonesia. And finally, I'd like to talk a little bit about the handbooks we've developed and the multimedia archive that links with these handbooks that's been developed for high school students in East Sumba. Okay, so where is Sumba and what is Marapu? A lot of people can confuse Sumba with Sumbawa, but it's not the same place. So it's an island about twice the size of Bali, and it's about 400 kilometers to the east of Bali in the East Nusa Tenggara province of Indonesia. Marapu is the indigenous ancestral religion of the Sumbanese people. So indigenous religions are the belief systems and the spiritual practices that existed all throughout the Indonesian archipelago, Nusantara archipelago, Philippines, all Austronesian cultures, before the arrival of Buddhism in the 2nd century. Buddhism and Hinduism in the early 2nd, 4th century, Islam in the 13th century, and Christianity in the 16th century. So according to the government data, in the early 70s, there were at least 644 indigenous religions in Indonesia. And by 2016, this number had dropped to 186. So quite a drastic decline in diversity. We can see there over those years. And that number's continued to decrease up until today. So a little bit about the Marapu religion. The guiding principle of the Marapu religion is for humans to strive to maintain balance and harmony in three main domains of life. Firstly, a balance in relationship to spiritual matters and clan ancestors. Secondly, balance in relationship to other humans, either individuals or other groups. And also balance in relationship to the environment and the natural world. So up until the end of the 19th century, everybody in Sumba, all Sumbanese people were Marapu religion adherents. And today the number has dropped to around 4% of the population in Sumba. So quite a drastic decline. But despite this, Marapu is still by far the largest indigenous religion in Indonesia. Okay, a little bit about the history of indigenous religions across Indonesia. In 1965, the Indonesian government passed the anti-subversion law. And the purpose of this law was to deal with the perceived threats of communism that were around at the time. But there was an unintended effect, possibly, and that was to silence all unorthodox voices or minority views, including religious ones. So basically, it framed as subversive any belief system that fell out of the 5 state-sanctioned world religions, which were Islam, Christianity, Catholicism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and then later Confucianism was added to that. So this law actually oppressed and excluded from a legal framework all of the ancestral religions of Indonesia. Later on in 1978, another policy was passed that actually declared that indigenous religions were not religions, but they used the nomenclature culture to describe them. So, and they asked all Indonesian citizens, including indigenous religion adherents, to register with the government as adherents of one of the 5 state-sanctioned religions. So this caused quite a few administrative problems for indigenous religion adherents. They could not receive accurate family registers or birth certificates for their children. They were denied employment as civil servants, soldiers or police officers. They were denied the right to establish places of worship and even the right to be buried in public cemeteries in some cases. So finally, in 2016, after decades of this kind of discriminatory policy, there was a landmark decision made by the Constitutional Court of Indonesia, which legally recognized all of the indigenous religions of Indonesia, and it began to put into practice less discriminatory administrative, educational, and legal policies for these adherents. So in broad terms, it was a big step forward. But the government's implementation of the new policies at the district, provincial, regional, and village levels is still far from optimal. And the legacy of discrimination caused by past regulation is still visible in government institutions, including the Civil Registration Office and in the formal education system. So in response to this history of discrimination, 2 Sumbanese NGOs, the first Sumba Integrated Development and Marunga Foundation, worked together to create 2 programs that were aimed at empowering and then improving the political participation of Marapu adherents in East Sumba. So the first program ran from 2019 to 2020 and was concerned more with documenting cultural assets. The second program ran from 2021 and it will finish this year in October 2023. This second program is a wider focus and is more concerned with increasing social and educational access. So as we can see from the data, the largest number of Marapu believers in Sumba is in East Sumba district, which is where our project is based. And as I said before, the The Marapu adherents make up almost 30% of all indigenous religion adherents in Indonesia. So it's by far the largest indigenous religion in Indonesia. So the first phase of this program aimed to support East Sumbanese Marapu communities to document, to archive and celebrate, disseminate and revitalize their intangible cultural assets. So this included music, songs, ritual practices, and oral traditions. So during the program, 13 genres of traditional music and 5 types of ritual were assessed in surveys with 61 Marapu respondents. 9 Marapu knowledge transmission workshops were undertaken. These activities were quite varied. They included Marapu musicians teaching folk songs to local primary school children, and instrument builders distributing traditional instrument builders and their craft to local youth. In addition to this, 27 performance and audio-visual documentation events were held across East Sumba. And through these events, 140 Marapu songs were documented in film and audio recordings by 70 Marapu traditional musicians. 30 of these were women. In addition to this, 4 Marapu rituals were documented in video. The second phase of the program, which started in 2021, is titled Limarapu, and this is concerned with advocacy and increasing social and educational access for Marapu believers in East Sumba by fostering their political participation. So our program worked closely with the Ministry of Education, Research and Technology, and we trained and certified 18 Marapu tutors that are now employed in 6 schools in East Sumba. So 6 pilot schools, 4 high schools and 2 primary schools in East Sumba now have standardized Marapu inclusive formal education services that are being delivered to students by Marapu tutors. In addition to this, in the non-formal education sector, 5 villages have tradition schools that service Marapu youth, developing their own culture-based education programs for local children, in particular those that have left the formal education system. So as a result of program advocacy to the Ministry of Education and Culture, the program has been started to be replicated in 3 other districts in Sumba, and there were 3 policies that were published by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Research and Technology. The first is concerning payment for Marapu tutors. The second is legalizing their placement in the formal education system. And the third is certifying them to teach in the formal education system. So why was it necessary to create Marapu inclusive education materials? Firstly, because none existed prior to this program. We believed, along with the government and Marapu community, that Marapu students should have the same rights to religious education as children of other religions, and should not be forced to attend religious education in a faith that is not their own. So in Indonesia, religious education is a compulsory subject. So what happened in practice is, if Marapu teachers were not available, children in Sumba were forced to follow Christian classes or Catholic classes in Sumba. In addition to this, there was support from the Ministry of Education in line with their programs, and also from the Supreme Council of Belief in God Almighty. This is Majelis Luhur Kepercayaan Indonesia. So with all our stakeholders, we believe that it was important to develop resources that promoted diversity of faith, art, and cultural identity in Indonesia. So how many books were published? The first book we published were guidelines for implementing non-formal education, or the tradition schools in East Sumba. The remaining 3 books were for high school students at the level class 10, 11, and 12. And all books were concerned with Marapu religious and cultural education. So in addition to this, there were multimedia archives and materials that linked and accompanied the book. So more than 3,100 images of cultural, 3,100 images of cultural heritage were collected from international museums and other archives. More than 260 audio recordings related to Marapu ritual and culture were recorded. 130 videos related to Marapu ritual and culture, and more than 320 texts were compiled during the program. So the way that these multimedia materials are accessed is online. The program has a YouTube account, which has received over 500,000 views up until now. A summary of the archive is also available on the website of the Marapu governing body of Sumba. I've given the address there. And also the archive is available in physical form. So in places where internet access is not common, we've provided the archive on data cards, which can be used in cell phones, and on flash disks also, which can be plugged into laptops, televisions, and other media. So these physical archives were distributed to Marapu tutors, Marapu students, traditional schools, traditional leaders, the government at the village, regional, provincial, and national level. Oops. So just to finish up, I'd like to share some of the reflections from the Marapu community about this program. The first is from Umbu Tio, who is a Marapu student at SMA Rindi Umalulu. And he stated, as a primary and middle school student, I could not receive education about the Marapu religion and culture. Luckily from last year, 2022, I received guidance and educational materials from a Marapu teacher. Now there are over 70 students at my high school who are taught about the Marapu religion and culture. Secondly, is a reflection from a Marapu tutor who teaches at the same school. Her name's Rabukahi. And she stated that we, the Marapu community, are very proud that there are now Marapu education programs. The parents and families of our Marapu students are also more confident to share about the teachings of their ancestors. They no longer feel like they're a guest in their own country. So that's it for my presentation. Thank you for listening, everybody. If you would like any additional information, please, I'll share the links that I provided in that last slide. Maybe I can copy them in the comments section. But yeah, thank you everybody for listening.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Joseph, and please give applause to Mr. Joseph for the very insightful presentation. Okay, to summarize the point of Mr. Joseph. So Mr. Joseph talked about indigenous religion in Indonesia, especially Marapu and its culture, such as ritual music and ritual, as well as how important it is to create Marapu inclusive education material. So Mr. Joseph and his team also helped the students and making several books about Marapu, which I think is a very incredible thing to do. Okay, once again, thank you for your time and contribution. And now let's move to the last keynote speaker, that is Mr. Teguh Kasprabowo, SPD MPD, a lecturer of Stikbang University, Indonesia. Okay, while we wait, I would like to read his CV first. Just like the rest of the speaker, Mr. Teguh also has interesting achievement as well as experience regarding in English teaching. So Mr. Teguh teaches English at English Literature Department of Universitas Stikbang, Semarang, and his research interests include English as foreign language, teacher professional development, and creative writing to support language learning in higher education. Mr. Teguh recently writes an illustrated poetry and short story collection, and also worked on some art-related projects. Okay, then I'm sure the participant can wait for his presentation. So let's welcome Mr. Teguh Kasprabowo.
Thank you very much, Lintang, for introducing me to everyone. Okay, good morning, everyone. The honorable speaker, Mr. Eric Summer, Ms. Ayah Ahmed Zidan and also Mr. Joseph Lamong for sharing and giving us your insights, your experience, and also the recent studies. Yeah, it's very interesting, Mr. Joseph Lamong, for your study. It's incredible. All right, so today I'm going to talk about, let me share my screen. All right, so can anyone see the presentation? Yeah. Okay. All right, so today I'm going to talk about these three, I'm trying to relate these three ideas about poetry writing, meaningful literacy, and also artificial intelligence. Oh. Okay, so can anyone listen to me, hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Oh, clearly. All right, thank you. Sorry, it's my microphone, the old one. All right, so today I'm going to talk about poetry writing, meaningful literacy, and also artificial intelligence. This is my recent studies. I did this small research in my class, and I'm going to share you the ideas and also the result of my study. All right. But before I start my presentation, I want all the participants to participate by answering this question. Just type in a chat box, what is poetry to you? Yeah. What is poetry to you? So there is no right or wrong answer for this, but your participation will be appreciated. Just type something, what is poetry, in the chat box, so we can discuss this later. And I'm going to come back with this question, with the answers of these questions later. But let me talk about my dream first for my institution, for Universitas Kubang, especially English Literature Study program related to the idea of poetry writing and also meaningful literacy and artificial intelligence. These are my dreams. So I have a dream that the English Literature Study program of Universitas Kubang becomes one of the center of the study of literary works. So here the students, lecturers, and the community can work together, not only to appreciate literary works, but my expectation, my dream is that we can all produce literary works. We can do some poetry writing, or maybe producing some drama, or maybe just publishing a collection of short stories, and so on and so forth. So in my dreams, I hope that one day our study program can hold various programs and activities, like doing exhibitions, maybe workshops, seminars, writing camps, and so on and so forth. Maybe we can also publish books or articles or anthology, yeah, periodically, to show that we really appreciate literary works. As our name suggests, it's English Literature Study Program. All right, so let me see the answer for what is poetry. Yeah, I got some answer here. Poetry is the way of art. Oh, thank you, Mr. Samuel Dimas. Nice answer. It has long figurative language. That is from Ma'am Agnes. Yeah. Poetry is the other way of using language, or we can call verse, such as sound, symbolism, or phonestetics. Wow, yeah, this is awesome. Yeah, Miss Sylvia. Another answer, poetry is a hidden expression of thoughts. Wow, okay, this is good. it's not easy to understand poetry. Yeah, this is cool. Sometimes we got confused after reading the poetry. Yeah. Sometimes we are trying to find enlightenment in poetry, but then after reading that, we got confused and lost. All right. So, what is my answer? This is actually not my answer because I refer to someone that has experience and I believe it's expert in poetry. This is my answer, and this is some kind of disclaimer for my class. Yeah, disclaimer for my class when I teach poetry writing in creative writing class. So to me, yeah, because I follow Ted Kooser, he's actually a poet laureate in the United States. Yeah, he's from Nebraska, University of Nebraska. Okay, so poetry is communication, and that poetry is a gift. That's my answer following Ted Kooser. So as a communication, students should write their poetry as clearly as possible, as long as their emotions, ideas, thoughts, whatever they got in their mind, in their heart, are well communicated, their poetry would be fine. That's the disclaimer that I make in my class. And poetry should be a gift. So you have to write poetry to someone. So if you have answers like poetry is hard to difficult, I think it doesn't suit this disclaimer. So poetry is communication, and it should be a gift to anyone. So this is poetry in my class. That's why I limit this definition, poetry in higher education and in EFL context. All right. So basically, we'll talk about these four things: creative writing, teaching poetry, especially, and then we talk about meaningful literacy in language classroom and also artificial intelligence. All right, let's always bring this definition that I make, the disclaimer that I make in this discussion. So poetry is a communication, and it should be a gift. So if you write poetry secretly in your book, now let's please start writing poetry and give it to somebody. All right. So why we learn poetry? Why we write poetry in creative writing class? Because I follow previous studies like this that proved creative writing, or especially poetry, support students in many ways. Yeah. So it increases students' confidence in writing skills, in any writing skills, like academic writing included. And also it supported other learning that students have in English as a foreign language context. And I did a study once in 2021. I studied how creative writing support personal development and supporting language learning for students. And the findings showed that creative writing benefits students' personal development and their language learning. So overall, the corporation of creative writing in language learning classes is a promising approach to enriching students' learning experience. So let's write poetry. All right. I also followed Hanor 2012 theory about the concept of meaningful literacy. It is believed that sometimes, or most of the times, we learn the language, we learn the systems, and we teach students the systems of English language in such a way, in details, and somehow they make the students got stuck in learning the language, not using the language. So Hanauer theory wanted to say that language learning should enable learners to engage in personal, contextualized, and meaningful activities. So students are expected not only to learn the system of language, but they use language, and not only using the language, but also expressing what they have within them, their emotions, their ideas, in the form of, for example, in this case is poetry. So the goal of language learning should be, in this theory, to facilitate personal and meaningful expressions. So we should give opportunity for the students to express their emotions too. Because this one is, I believe that language teaching had become dehumanized and to contextualize. It's detached from what students have within them and the language that they learn. So the concept of utilizing poetry writing in language classroom address this issue by providing learner with a more personal and contextualized approach to language learning. In my classes, students can express whatever they feel, whatever they want to say, their dreams, their ideas in their poetry. And they have to make sure that this poetry is easily understood by anyone in the class, and also it's a gift to anyone in the class. And I also use this concept of meaningful literacy with reflective learning. So by writing poetry, students not only express their emotions, but they reflect, they can think about again the process that they have done so far in the learning process by reflecting their ideas, emotions, and whatever they have in their mind, in their heart, in poetry. So in my class, students using poetry not only to, for example, express their missing to someone, but to express the process of learning that they have done, the journey that they have been through during the semester. So by reflecting their process of learning, it is expected that they appreciate their own journey of learning, and they also appreciate the process of writing itself. They also can look back and see their weaknesses, their strength, whatever they can improve, they have to improve, and whatever they have achieved during the lessons. So they can express whatever they want, and they can look back to the learning journey that they have been through. That's the concept of meaningful literacy plus reflective learning. And I believe a deliberate reflection is very important in learning, because by deliberating the process of learning, students are aware of whatever they have achieved and whatever they have been through. Now, I have an incident in my classroom, actually, with all ideas that I have of poetry writing. But before that, I'll talk about AI in poetry writing. Artificial intelligence is actually a powerful tool for many different purposes. You can write, you can make arts, you can brainstorm, you can create any long script with artificial intelligence, but I have to make sure that this presentation is not made with AI. And it has been developed so very well for quite a while, actually, yeah. And we have, for example, ChatGPT, Bard, Google make Bard, and also even Bing, that used to be actually a search engine that is now become an artificial intelligence search engine. That's wow from Microsoft. Yeah. And if we ask this machine to write poem, they will, and that's it. They will make it. I'll show you how they make the poetry, and it's incredible. They make everything incredibly. Yeah, but let's see later. However, poetry in our context here is not only a product that I want to see in my class. I don't want to see the product that the students make, but I want to see the process they're going through to produce a piece of literary work, to produce a piece of poetry. This process should embrace the concept of meaningful literacy. So if students, for example, are doing this, write me a 3-stanza poem talking about our learning journey by clicking the comment or the comment button in ChatGPT, for example, they will just get this in a few seconds. Yeah, but this is wonderful. This is a wonderful poem made by a machine like ChatGPT. But does this reflect what students thinking, what students feel? Of course, it doesn't. This is not the gift from my student to me or to their friends. This is even not a gift from ChatGPT to us, right? This is a machine production. I don't want this to happen in my class. This is a poem wrote by my students. This is what I call communication. Maybe there are some grammar mistakes here, bad diction maybe in quotation mark, but my students trying to communicate what they have in their mind, in their heart. And this student specially give this poem to me. It's a gift to me. And this involve their emotions that reflect the journey. I love the last line that finally conclude this poetry. From now on, I am fearless. This is wonderful. So these students talk about how she struggled during the lessons, the semester, and then how she found it difficult to write, to express the idea. Sometimes she feels shy, and she was anxious to write. Yeah, but in the end, she concluded that from now on, I am fearless. She has bravery to write. This is wonderful. So this is kind of poetry that that I really expect in my classroom. So what's my stance for artificial intelligence? I strongly oppose the use of artificial intelligence to write or produce poetry and other literary texts, specifically in the context of English as a foreign language teaching and learning. Why? Because if I let my students to just produce their poem using AI, so what is their learning for? Yeah. So in the concept of meaningful literacy that we talk about, we want to facilitate students with language learning plus how their emotions, ideas, and feelings and thoughts are delivered in their work. So this is my stance, but I'm okay using if students use AI just for example for brainstorm to get the ideas, or maybe maybe just to try to get some insights, yeah, but not as the product of their work. So here's my study. I collected 47 poems from the students, and this is what I found. I found 4 major themes by looking at their poem. I found these 4 major themes. The first one is that they have changed perceptions towards poetry writing. At first, when they heard about the poetry writing, they got anxious, they got worried about sharing their poetry, right? Because usually we secretly wrote our poetry in a book that was locked with triple locks, so that no one can see our poetry, right? And the second one is they show their struggles during the course in their poetry, and that's wonderful that someone shows how they struggles during a work or something. And with those struggles, they also express that finally they get confidence increase in their poetry. They express that somehow, little by little, they got self-confidence in writing poetry. And also, one of the most wonderful thing in this finding is that they have expectations to keep writing even after the class ended. Yeah, this is wonderful. This is really insightful for me. This some excerpt from my students' work showing how they struggles. For example, the one on the left corner. This one showing how the student struggles writing poetry by expressing it in their poetry. This is wonderful. And also how they got confidence, if you see on the right side at the top, that they dare to do something rather than not writing. They want to show the poetry to everyone in the class rather than keep it. And the last one on the the last one on the bottom, it shows that they expect to write poetry after the last long ends. Yeah, the last line say like, and perhaps it'll become a beacon for us to keep writing even long after your class ends. This is wonderful. This is a dream that I mentioned previously, that students are having expectation to write poetry after they finish the class. And I still sometimes talk about this with them in groups, yeah, in WhatsApp groups, and they still doing the poetry writing. So I'm to end this, I'm going to give you this takeaway. This is a simple takeaway actually for anyone who wants to teach poetry writing or learn to write poetry. So number one, provide real examples for your students. Example is everything for me. So I push myself to write a collection of poetry writing. And I like drawing, I like art, so I put some arts in my book, and then I show it to my students. And this, I think, motivates students to write, because the teacher wrote poetry. Oh, the teacher wrote poetry, so I have to follow the teacher. So providing a real example for your students is, I think, is very important. And then read with them. So I read this poem with them, and then I write and write with them. So I sometimes wrote special poetry for them in specific meetings, so they felt appreciated, and I think that's later motivate them to write. And don't forget to celebrate whatever you have produced with your students, with the students in the class, and let them show what they done. I think that's all for my presentation and my simple research this year. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much for the excellent presentation, Mr. Teguh. I believe you already inspire and give insight to our participants today. And to summarize the point, Mr. Teguh talked about poetry and encourage more people, especially students, to do creative writing, especially poetry. He also mentioned that the goal of learning language should be to facilitate personalized and meaningful expression. Once again, thank you very much, Mr. Teguh, for your time and contribution today. And now we will take a picture together first. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think that's all. Yeah. All right, thank you very much. Before we continue, I would like to remind you to fill the present, and we'll put the link on the chat box. And now it's time for a question and answer session. Please write your question on the chat box. And we already have several questions. Okay. Okay, so the first question is from Mr. Sugeng Purwanto to Mr. Joseph. So the question is, what is actually the best way to teach religion, formally attached to national education system or informally through private institution?
Sorry, what was the second part of that? The formal education system and?
Formally attached to national education system or informally through private institution?
Okay. Well, they're both quite different. Personally, I think one of the best methodologies to teach about indigenous religions is actually through arts. So Tegu, I think, was just talking about poetry, which is a really important part of Marapu identity and culture. So in the Marapu culture, obviously Bahasa Daerah is not really used in the formal education system. So it's sort of a marker of identity, and it's very important in all types of rituals in Sumba. But I think in three domains, art can be a methodology. In the visual art domain, to teach about religious values, in the literary domain or oral traditions, and also in the performance art such as traditional music and so on. So yeah, I think art is a really good methodology, basically, because, for example, in traditional poetry, it's not just about the art itself. There are values, ethical values that older generation wants to teach to younger generations. And the way they do this is via these ritual poetic couplets, almost like pantun. So, and it's also quite creative. Even though there are traditional forms of these couplets, the way that people string them together and put them together into songs or into poetry is up to the person. So at the same time, it's preserving culture and it's bringing it into a modern context. One example of that is when Sumbanese traditional musicians during COVID, a lot of the government messages were being relayed to the population in Bahasa Indonesia, yeah? So a lot of people didn't understand what these messages were. So some Sumbanese folk singers actually started to write songs that gave WHO recommendations about health and distribute them in a culturally appropriate way. So yeah, I think for me, yeah, arts is a really good methodology for teaching about religious values, because when we're talking about religion, we're talking about ethics, morality, history, prohibitions and obligations, all these kinds of things, and they're all in art, in traditional arts. I hope that explains it.
Yeah. All right, thank you very much for the answer, Mr. Joseph. Let's move on to the second question. It's from Mr. Sugeng Purwanto to Mr. Teguh. So he asks, how can you win the heart of a woman through the work of poetry?
Is it for me, Lintang, the question?
Yes, it's for Mr.
Teguh. Could you come again, please?
How can you win the heart of a woman through the work of poetry?
How can I win? Okay, great. That's a wonderful question, yeah, in this bright morning. How can I win the heart of a lady through poetry? Yeah. I actually won my wife's heart through poetry. That's why the disclaimer that I made in my class is poetry should be a gift. So if someone write poetry with the purpose of giving a gift to somebody, he or she will write poetry from their heart, right? So and the second, actually the first disclaimer is poetry should be a communication. Poetry is a communication. So you should communicate your ideas, your emotions in your poetry first. So it should be clear what you mean. Although sometimes you still use a figurative language that might be not easy to understand, but try to make it easily understood. And then let it be a gift to someone. So if someone rejects the gift, that will be fine. But usually if we give a gift to someone, they will receive it, at least. I'm not sure if it can win someone's heart, but at least a gift is usually accepted or taken by someone. I think that's my answer. I cannot make sure if I can win somebody's heart. No, thank you.
Okay, then thank you very much, Mr. Teguh, for the answer. And let's move on to the next question from Mrs. Endang to Ayah Ahmed Zidan. So the question is, what are the favorite topics or issues for your students to write as their thesis draft?
Again, the issue or topic that I asked my student to write about it. Hello, did you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
I think this is Mr. Sugeng, right?
Yeah, that's voice.
I saw Mr. Sugeng, is that right?
Yeah, sure.
I miss him so much. Okay.
It's wonderful.
Subhanallah, time flies too fast. Subhanallah. Okay, so I hope you are fine. Thank you so much. I miss you too, my beloved lecturer.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so your question, I think you've asked me what the issue or the topic that I ask my student to write about it, or what? Could you please repeat it?
So the question is, what are the favorite topics or issues for your students write as their thesis draft?
Okay. The issue that my student always faced and always ask, they are always have complementation and critical and so on, that's the poor communication inside the classroom. They are always, facing a problem in poor communication. And this is not my fault, actually, because many students, even they are in a college and they are adult, but still feel, they couldn't, talk about the idea. They couldn't send the idea inside the classroom. So the issue is a poor in communication skill. So that's what I'm using inside the classroom, hypertext and electronic books for my student to try to let them to communicate with me easily and communicate with their colleagues. So the problem is, again, poor communication skill. And the communication, it's the most important skill inside the classroom between the students or the colleague.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
I'm talking, right? I'm not talking too much. Actually, that's my...
No.
Yeah. Thank you very much for your answer,
Yeah.
Aya.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Ayah, for the answer. And let's move to the next question from Lisa Arimbi. to Mr. Joseph Lamon. So she asked, do people in Merapu have an ID card? So usually in Indonesia, it writes Islam, Christian, Catholic, Hindu, or Buddha on their ID card. So her question is, what's the religion that written on their ID card?
Okay, that's a great question. So up until 2016, as I spoke about before, Merapu adherents could not put their religion on their ID cards. So either there was two things that they would do. They would leave the agama section blank, so it'd be titik dua strep, or a lot of people just what we call KTP Christian. So in order to obtain government services, people would just say they're Christian, right, and without being baptized. So the system was quite difficult. Now, after 2016, what they're allowed to do now is actually on the KTP, it doesn't say agama, it says kepercayaan. So the nomenclature is still, it's not quite the same as agama, so it's still slightly odd in my opinion. But on KTP now, there's where on a normal KTP where it says agama and then Islam or Christian, it says kepercayaan titik dua, kepercayaan terhadap Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. So it doesn't actually say the indigenous religion, but it puts it in a category, which is everything outside of the six main religions now. But that's still a problem now. A lot of people still haven't, the government data is not accurate now because of the past policies from the Civil Registration Office. So yeah, we're still trying to get Merapu couples to register their marriages and at the same time register the correct information on their KTP. And what we expect is the government data will increase of Merapu adherents as they change their KTP to the correct religious affiliation.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much for your answer, Mr. Joseph. I would like to remind you that we will open the question and answer session until 10:15. So we have several minutes left. And let's move on to the next question. So Ms. Melanie asked to Mr. Eric Stammer, how can TESOL help students understand and use English fluency? So Mr. Eric.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me just pin my picture. How can that help? Well, honestly, TESOL certification is a requirement needed for teaching overseas. It's the experience once you begin teaching English learners. That is when you start your in-class learning. It's different, actually. What I realized when I went to class, even though I might be using the same text, but I'm talking about from the past. I'm being using my materials that I'm supposed to use for the class is supposed to be the same one, but every time that I change the same grade, but at a different session, a different year, I change the material based on how fluent the students are in English. It doesn't matter what you learned in the past, but you need to adapt what you learned in the way that your students are able to understand it.
Okay, thank you very much for the answer, Mr. Eddie. Now for the next question is also for Mr. Eric. How can digital technology improve English literacy for students?
Okay, thank you. Technology in this case, by accessing, well, as you know, nowadays, we can access resources easily online. Like mentioned before, Duolingo, you can practice quite a lot your English skills. Or we're talking about also about, which one was it? Lingo and so forth. It's researching things online that in the past you couldn't depend on that. You were supposed to go to English courses, and nowadays you can access lots of that information and practice online for free.
Okay, thank you very much
You're welcome.
for the answer. We still have several questions for you, Mr. Eric.
Yeah.
So, Enrico asks, and his question is how to improve student English speaking skills by taking advantages of digital technology for non-English speaking students.
Okay, that is more challenging. I have to say, doing it virtually, it's much more challenging for shy students to communicate actually online that is in person. In person, you can approach it individually, getting closer to them and giving them the chance to respond their own way and at their own pace. The reality is that teaching online many times shy students what they've been doing, keeping the camera off and really trying to answer the questions. By having them in class in person, it helps them more to build the confidence. Another way, many times by teaching foreign students, the main problem the students have is insecurity of communicating in a foreign language. First of all, what I do apply I like to communicate with them also in Bahasa Indonesia. If they're not confident, first of all, by using Bahasa Indonesia and English, asking them the question in English, but if they don't understand, also rephrase it in Bahasa Indonesia. And for them, if they're not able to understand right away or respond in English, I give them the chance to respond in Bahasa Indonesia and I translate for them in order for them to repeat. The first step is for them to build the confidence in learning a foreign language. The mistake that I've been seeing here in lots of international schools, they want a learner of English that doesn't speak a word of English. They go into international school, management expects the teachers right away to communicate, and they're supposed to respond to you in English. In my opinion, that is a no-no. First of all, you need to build that confidence. And how do you build the students' confidence? By referring to your native language. If you don't do that, it's a much lengthier process and students will be more hesitant in participating. By applying also in my classes, previously in international schools, they didn't like that. But now that I've been assisting in national plus schools, they don't mind and they understand my experience. They realize the important is in order for them to learn a language, they need to build the confidence in communicating with that. And how do you do that? By also applying your native language, Bahasa Indonesia. That's what I do. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Eric. And we would like to continue the Q&A session, but unfortunately our time are very limited, so we will close the Q&A session now. And for the next session is giving the certificate to keynote speaker. So our first keynote speaker today is Mr. Eric. And please wait a moment while we okay then. So
Ms. Lintang, may I have a word, please, Ms. Lintang?
yes, please.
Okay, allow me to share, to give our appreciation to Mr. Eric Alberstammer, as for your attendance here as the speaker. Here is the certificate for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I feel quite honored to have attended this activity. Thank you very much, this lecture.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to our second keynote speaker. That is Mrs. Ayah Ahmed Zidan.
Hi, Miss Agnes.
Hi, Ayah. Okay,
How are
Ayah.
you?
I'm fine.
Thank
Good.
you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, Ayah. Thanks for your contribution in this third International Student Conference, Ayah. We are grateful to have you here as one of the speakers and allow me to share our appreciation to you by giving you this certificate. Thank you, Ayah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Okay.
for
You're
this
welcome.
opportunity. Thank you.
You're
I'm so
welcome.
happy to see you and all staff here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to giving certificate to the third keynote speaker. That is Mr. Joseph Lamont.
Mr. Joseph Laman, yeah, we meet again.
Hello.
Okay, it's nice to having you here. We are very grateful to have you here as one of the speakers and hope that we can continue our relationship, yeah. And to show our appreciation, please, we give you the certificate. Thank you for your attendance
Thank you so
and your
much.
time.
It was a pleasure sharing with you. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Okay, and last is giving the certificate to the fourth keynote speaker. That is Mr. Teguh Pasprabowo, SPD MPD.
Wow, Pak Teguh. Yeah, it's a great presentation, Pak Teguh. Yeah, okay, please take the certificate. Yeah, to show our appreciation to you, Pak Teguh. Yes, thank you, Pak Teguh.
Okay, so before we end the plenary session, let's take some picture together. Okay, 1, 2, 3. One, two, three. Next, please. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right, thank you. And that will conclude our plenary session. Thank you very much to all of the honorable keynote speaker and of course to all of the participants. We hope you find this conference to be informative and useful. It's been a pleasure of mine to be your moderator today, and I'll let Ms. Grace to take over.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Lintang. Wow, that's a good presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, what a wonderful speeches that we all have listened to. We will have a break for 1 hour 45 minutes, and you all should be back at 12:15 to the main room and wait for the host to assign you to a specific breakout rooms. And in breakout rooms, you all will be moderated by our liaison officials. And just reminding that for the presenters, please rename your Zoom account with the format that I will send in the chat box. And have a nice break and see you soon.